Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hello, I'm Kevin.
And I am Eric.
And this is 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger, the podcast where we take a long, hard look back at some of our favorite action movies from the era of Arnold.
You can tell we're on episode 5. Schwarzenegger is the icon of the genre, and we're taking a deep dive into some of these 80s and 90s cult action movies and breaking them all the way down. All the way down. Welcome back to Iron Eagle Part 5.
Yeah, man, the bourbon's flowing.
Woo, it's free.
The jets are flying. The balsa wood jets are blowing up.
Blowing up everywhere.
Oh, yes, man. Thanks, everybody, for sticking with us to the
Yeah,
end.
yeah, we're closing it up.
One of my all-time favorite, guilty pleasure movies.
I'm glad to be a part of it now. As we've discussed, I only had these fleeting images of Iron Eagle in my life.
It's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
I love this movie. It is as fun as I remember it ever being. I fucking love it, man.
It's always a good feeling where you enjoy something from your youth and then you can revisit it as an adult and I still like this.
Because what I watched recently, one I hadn't seen in 30 years, Flight of the Navigator. And I was like, nah, I don't know if this holds up.
Yeah.
Except there's something about it that was a lot darker than I remembered.
Yeah, I agree. There's the
I can't
weird
remember the details of the plot, except
the way that they handle that he's jumped so far into the future and is still a child.
Was his family dead or something? Something weird had happened?
Yeah, it was really dark.
Or one of his brothers, his little brother had died or something strange.
It was just anyway, that movie was dark.
Yeah.
You know what 80s movie that I love that holds up? And I mentioned it very briefly in episode 1.
I know what you're going to say.
The Explorers, man.
That movie fucks so hard.
Dude.
That's like a better version of Goonies.
Yeah, I agree. I would much rather watch The Explorers than Goonies.
Dude. That's Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix and some other the third kid who never amounted to a whole lot.
I don't remember,
but yeah, that movie is fucking great.
I still love that movie. I watched
That's
that as a kid and loved
Goonies
that movie.
Goonies was like Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, the kids are nerds and they're the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
And the Explorers was like, the kids are nerds and it's
also
cool to be a fucking
badass.
nerd.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I loved Explorers.
Oh, I know. I still love that movie.
Yeah, that holds up.
Dude, I want to make that spaceship. Like the way that it was the amusement park ride.
Oh, you mean the little one they flew in?
They flew in inside of the orb. Oh,
yeah. I thought you meant like the big alien ship.
No. I'm talking like the 3-person seat. Like
a washing machine and everything.
Oh, my God, dude.
That movie's fucking great.
That movie is stellar.
If you're a child of the 80s, you probably know The Explorers. Or is it just Explorers?
Maybe it's just Explorers.
I think it's just Explorers.
Yeah.
But if you haven't seen that shit, watch it, because I feel like that you could watch cold having never seen it before. And it's a pretty fucking good experience.
It's great for kids to watch it. It's great for, it is just a legitimate
That was one of my
movie.
favorites when I was a little kid. I didn't watch the Goonies growing up.
Yeah.
I watched Explorers. I didn't see Goonies until I was probably in college.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's okay. I feel like I probably would have appreciated it more if I saw it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But Explorers, I think, is a superior film.
Agreed.
Okay.
All right, great.
Glad we don't have to fight.
We found a consensus.
Okay.
Part 5. I feel like I need to sum this shit up.
Yeah,
okay.
do sum this movie up.
All right, so Doug Master's dad is shot over the Mediterranean by a country who remains nameless that claims that he's invaded their airspace. He's put on trial. His dad's put on trial for crimes against humanity or something. Sentenced to death in 3 days. Doug, who is an amazing pilot because a classic 80s bully, tests his mettle and he succeeds. He meets up with Colonel
A 30-year-old man was bullying high schoolers.
Which we've established is well reasonable within the fiction of this
movie.
movie.
And it seemed like they had literally killed someone before.
I know.
Another high schooler.
Timmy Branson, right?
They tampered with his plane.
Right. I know. It's dark, man.
It's fucked up.
One of several side movies that we think this should have come out of this. Anyway, so Doug meets up with Colonel Chappie through a series of like mysterious plane adjustments, flight simulator occurrences, and eating at black Italian restaurants.
You know.
And yeah, as you do, Doug and his buddies and Chappie put together a plan to go fly to the other side of the world to rescue Doug's dad.
Yeah.
And they get all the shit together. There's an amazing montage where a bunch of teenagers thwart the American Air
With the
Force.
helmet twisted sister.
With the helmet twisted sister. Chappie and Doug take off. They fly across the world. There's a mid-flight refueling scene with the worst airplane model I've ever seen.
I love that made the recap.
Oh my god! I paused the movie. I can't believe that this is what made it in. Anyway, they make it over to the Mediterranean. They do their first attack. They take out the runway to stop the MiGs from taking off. Still two take off. They take care of them. Chappie's plane is damaged in the process. Crashes over the Mediterranean. Doug continues his flight to his final destination on his own. However, he's got a tape from Chappie that he's about to start listening to.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right.
Oh my gosh. You killed that.
What can I say? I'm a master of recaps.
So now Doug is flying on his own. He presses play on the tape that Chappie made for him. This is a continuation of that amazing scene in the pilot of Cobra Kai where Johnny Lawrence was like at rock bottom at home in his shitty little apartment, fucking watching Iron Eagle. We've all been there. Chappie's voice is telling Doug things must have gone wrong if you're listening to this tape. He tells Doug, you can bug out if you want to, if you're not up for doing it alone, but I know that you got it in you to pull this off.
That's right.
So this is like the speech, the motivational speech, where he says, right now, you're probably filled with all the doubts in the world, but I'm going to tell you something, Doug. God doesn't give you something he doesn't want you to use. And he gave you the touch, which is like to kill.
Yeah, no,
you can really bomb the shit out of these.
So you and Charlie Manson are in the same. Okay.
He says, the powers you got deep inside you, down where you keep your guts, boy. It's all you need to blast your way in there and get back what they took from you. Your dad's sitting there waiting on a miracle, and if you fly your heart out, you can give him one. It's up to you. And I can't see this scene anymore without like picturing Johnny Lawrence fucking pounding Coors beers, and all of a sudden Chappie's speech starts to connect with him. You're right. You got to go back and get what they took from you. Fucking Jesus Christ.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
The fact they repurposed Iron Eagle into like motivating Johnny Lawrence is that's my favorite things coming together. I mean, Cobra Kai is fine, but I admit I fast forward through all the teenager parts. Right.
I only watch.
You want to see the burnout old men.
Yeah, that's the only thing I care about is the burnout old men. And those parts are amazing.
Uh-huh.
But I end up fast forwarding through a lot of the show because I don't care what the teenagers are doing.
The teen drama is not doing it for you.
It's not doing it for me.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But so Chappie tells him, if you're going to go for it, keep on listening to the tape. So Doug gets that stiff upper lip. He listens on, and Chappie tells him, all right, you got to believe that you're invincible. Nothing can stop you. Your plane is like an Iron Eagle.
Boom. We did it. We finally got there.
Finally.
It blew me away. Like, we're deep into Act 3.
We're in the 5th and final episode, and finally we get someone saying the title of the movie out loud.
That's crazy for an 80 movies that it took them that long to get this. But now that they said it, they don't stop saying it. Iron Eagle, it must have been said 30 times from this point on to the credits closing.
So Chappie says, okay, I recorded instructions for you on this tape to talk you through each phase of the mission. Keep talking into your flight recorder to keep an audio record of what's happening. It's a very clever plot device.
Yeah.
To sort of, do it like that. Now, Chappie says, imagine that I'm there with you. We're doing this together, which feels like kind of a cheat.
It does.
It's like in Beer Fest, when when Landfill dies,
and his twin brother
shows up, and he's like, and if you don't mind, could you call me Landfill? It's like, he's like, Landfill told me so much about you guys. We're not going to have any awkward getting to know each other phase. And would you mind calling me Landfill? It's like, oh, it'll be like Landfill never died.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting out of it. It's like,
and then like, doesn't he get with Landfill's wife too?
Landfill's wife. And it's like, we killed you off, Chappie, but you're still really here. But the plane's really only got room for 2 people, and we need a room for the dad. So we gotta we'll fake it.
Yeah,
you're here, but you're not here. But now down on the ground, Colonel Nikesh is told basically it's going to take us an hour to get the runway fixed from where they bombed it earlier. Nikesh tells them, hurry up because the Americans are coming for Colonel Masters and they need to get some fighters up in the air. And I love that he was on like the very early cordless phone, which I presumably is because the radio tower's been knocked out. Yep. So it's like we're on phones now.
Right.
So back in the F-16, the Chappie recording is telling Doug that the bad guys are never going to expect that it's just like one plane coming in here. So, why don't you can bluff and tell them there's a whole squadron.
So this is this part that kept confusing me because Doug is always speaking in the present to Chappie, presumably, but Chappie's recording is always speaking in the future tense. Because it's like they will never see you coming. It's like they're not seeing you coming because he doesn't know theoretically while he's recording.
Yeah, right.
And so there's this weird disconnect between like what Doug is saying and how Chappie is responding to it.
It is. It's a little strange. Yeah, I get that. But I don't know. It is what it is. The screenwriters are doing their best.
Oh man.
So Chappie tells Doug, basically, what you know what to do. Go get them. So Doug swaps out tapes. Cranks up that "Give Me Some Lovin'" by the Spencer Davis Group. He popped in the Chappie tribute tape.
That's right.
That he had made. I guess.
That's right. This is for you, Chappie.
It's like old school rhythm and soul music. Doug flies into another small airstrip. Doesn't make any sense, the geography of it all. But he wipes out some enemy forces. There's a couple of helicopters. He shoots them up too.
Doesn't even Chappie say they're gonna try to take off some helicopters, and what you need to watch out for is the rockets.
I don't recall, but yeah, it's strange.
Yeah.
It's hilarious though when he toppled this radio tower, which is basically just like a big antenna. Yeah. And it fell on some nondescript tent.
Yeah, that explodes.
And it was the hugest explosion you've ever seen in your life. Like, what was in that tent?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just piles of pallets of C4.
Yeah.
So now Doug hops on the radio. He speaks directly to the bad guys, identifying himself as Iron Eagle. He says, I'm a leader of an American assault force. We're here to rescue Colonel Masters. I want to see Colonel Masters being transferred from the jail to the most remote runway at the airport in 2 minutes, or my squadron is going to start bombing strategic targets, starting with your oil refinery. Yeah. The bad guy is just like, pigs.
Yes.
Which kind of reminded me, there was this one character in the movie Cliffhanger. Did you watch Cliffhanger, the Stallone movie?
Dude, are you kidding me? With John Lithgow as oh my God.
There's the one guy who's just kind of constantly, we got to do that movie on the podcast at some point,
Cliffhanger. We should, yeah.
That's another one.
Do that, yeah.
But there's the one character that's constantly making just like muttering threats, where like the one dude's like, they're looking for this cases of money or whatever. And dude's like, it should be just up over this ridge. And he's like, it better be. And the guy's like, I'm getting real tired of your threats. And the guy's like, are you? And it's just like, that's Nikesh to me. Everything he says is just this like sort of muttered threat. Pigs. But so Nikesh, he orders the escort to be put on standby at the jail. Says, I'm going to go to the airport. I'm going to oversee this shit personally.
Yeah. So this is, okay. So Nikesh says here a line that was very confusing to me. He says something along the lines of, hold on to this guy because I think we need to use Colonel Masters as a decoy. I'm like, a decoy for what exactly?
No clue.
You figured it out at this point that he's coming for Colonel Masters.
Yeah.
Like, you can't use him as a decoy because we already know that this is the objective.
It was
such a weird line.
It is.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
But
anyway.
I don't know that he's a tactical genius.
Clearly not.
As we'll get to in very short order.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. That was just a weird aside.
The couple minutes pass, no sign of Colonel Masters being moved. So Doug radios back, asks, "What's the delay?" Bad guy on the other end is like, "We're having trouble finding a vehicle suitable for your purposes." He's like, "Bullshit! You got a whole town full of them." He's like, "You just lost a refinery."
You just lost a refinery.
So Doug flies off and destroys their oil refinery in this epic explosion.
So I laughed so hard at this. You just lost a refinery, and we were talking earlier about the subtle differences between a Mustang in America and a Mustang in Israel,
Yeah.
and I alluded to this. We've come to that point. What they show is a water reclamation plant.
Is that right?
It is not an oil refinery.
I'm no expert. I bought it.
Yeah, it is. It is clearly a place where they clean
It's
and
a
prepare
place in
water.
Israel.
Yeah.
We don't have refineries here. So what do we got that looks
It looks
industrial?
So, and the only reason I know this is because when I lived in LA, like the water reclamation plants looked exactly like this. They were giant open air tanks, and they had like tons of them. And so when he was flying over them, I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is. It's not an oil refinery.
Hey, I bought it. I'm bought in at this point. Listen, Doug, that had to be a model because otherwise it would have been the biggest explosion ever put on film.
Yeah.
And I don't think that belongs to this movie.
Yeah.
But he's like, looks like they'll be importing oil this year.
It wouldn't be an 80s action movie without a few one-liners.
So from where he's at, Nikesh can see the burning refinery, I guess. Now he orders his men, okay, get that runway at the base fixed pronto and go ahead and start transporting Colonel Masters to the airport now, which is like, you just lost $100 million in oil
Right.
to stall for 1 minute. Like, you gave Iron Eagle exactly what he asked for.
Exactly what he wanted.
You just made him wait 1 extra minute and you cost yourselves your entire like oil reserve. Fucking shit was crazy to me. So Nikesh is like, says, yeah, move the dad. I want them to be together when they die. So we see Colonel Masters being snatched out of his cell, hustled out of the jail. He's shoved into the back of a Jeep and the convoy leaves the prison compound. Like, you could have just moved him out of the jail when he said and told the drivers to drive slow.
Drive slow, right?
You know,
I also
save
love
the oil refinery.
I also love when they pull him out of the jail cell. They've got a guy on either side of him, and they jog in pace. Like Colonel Masters has been tortured for days now, but he's still fit enough to do a brisk, jaunty jog with his captors as they leave the prison.
Exactly, dude. But so Doug sees they're moving the dad. He's happy about it. Now at the airport, Nikesh is ordering that the mobile units be brought into position, but keep them out of sight. And I'm like, hold your fire until I give the order. And I'm like, I don't see how you could move all these like surface to air units into position without being seen.
Right.
But okay, sure,
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, do it.
So now the Chappie recording, he's changed his tapes out again, I guess. The Chappie recording.
How many tapes did Doug?
That's what I'm saying. Imagine if you like, and you're constantly changing them, you're not going to like drop one into the floorboard somewhere and you're
Exactly.
like, oh, I can't reach down and get it.
Yeah.
But Chappie on the tape is telling Doug, from here on out, you're on your own. But he reminds Doug, when the time comes now, drop that Hades bomb, spend as little time on the ground as you can. So now we see the convoy transporting Colonel Masters, gets to the airport. They tell Colonel Masters, get down to the end of that specified runway alone. They strangely like pulled him out of the back of the Jeep and then told him to get in and drive. And Colonel Masters goes all the way around the Jeep and gets in the passenger side and slides over to the driver's seat.
I know. I saw that. I'm like,
What's happening?
What just happened?
Why did this happen this way? What's going on?
What is going on with this right now?
That's strange. But in the control tower, Nikesh is told that there's no sign of any other American planes in the area. So Nikesh seems to sort of realize he's dealing with one lone pilot. So he tells his troops, allow that plane to land, then cut him to pieces. So we see a sniper is taking position as Colonel Masters is reaching the end of the runway. So Doug maneuvers to come in and set the plane down. What happened to dropping the Hades bomb?
Not a clue. Not a clue.
Like on my 100th viewing of the movie, I realized I noticed he's like literally just got told, don't forget to drop that Hades bomb when you're getting ready to land.
Yep.
Anyway, he goes as soon as his wheels touch down. Nikesh gives the order and the sniper shoots Colonel Masters. Doug screams and he takes off again without ever really actually stopping, like just took back off. Nikesh seems pleased with this as his men unveil their surface-to-air missiles. They start shooting everything they've got at Doug, but they can't hit shit.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
So
Doug
bad.
Doug
They're
pops
fucking
in.
stormtroopers. Like, they're straight up stormtroopers.
Absolutely, man. So Doug pops in a fresh tape and blasts "Hide in the Rainbow" by the band Dio or Dio.
No, it's not. It's not a band. It's Dio is the performer. Like that's.
Oh, it's a guy.
He's
It's
a guy.
human?
Yeah, Dio.
Okay.
Yeah. Ronnie James Dio.
Hide
is a
in the
fucking,
Rainbow.
Yeah, it's a hardcore metal guy. He's the one who invented the horns, man.
Okay.
Yeah, Ronnie James
Oh, I
Dio.
never
He invented
knew
the
any of
horns.
this.
Yeah.
But Doug is just annihilating all the men on the ground that are shooting at him. Doug like popped in the "they just shot my dad" mix. You know what I mean? It was my least favorite song in the movie. It was a little too hard.
Yeah.
It just didn't fit with everything else.
When they busted out Dio, I was like all on board.
Did you know
for
this
it.
song?
Yeah. I love Ronnie James Dio.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know his
He's like
shit.
he's contemporary to like Black Sabbath.
Okay.
And a bunch
he's
of
like
those,
classic
he's
rock.
classic heavy rock. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when it played, you hear Dio's vocals rocking. I'm like, I'm there for it. Yeah. Yeah.
But as he's like blowing everything up, Doug, dudes are like flying through the air like A-Team style.
Yeah,
you know, it's like
straight
there's an
up.
explosion over here and a
They're
guy
jumping
just flies up into the air over there. It's crazy. So Nikesh sees Doug coming straight at the control tower and he skedaddles out. Not a moment too soon because Doug blows that shit up with a missile. He didn't tell anyone else. He's like, not like, let's get out of here. Then there's just another huge like orgy of explosions in the movie. Doug continues to like lay waste to all the bad guys. We see him arm the Hades bomb. Nikesh orders that the troops run down the runway to make sure that Colonel Masters is dead.
Which,
course.
who cares?
Right. We see, of course, that in fact Colonel Masters is not dead. He's just been shot through the shoulder, the classic shoulder shot.
Yeah. If you're shot through the shoulder,
You're
famously, you're fine.
It's a flesh wound.
It's a flesh wound.
Yeah. So we got dozens of enemy troops running down the runway as Doug swoops in and drops his Hades bomb, which creates this wall of flames like between the bad guys and where Colonel Masters is at. And I was just thinking, like, do you know how long a fucking runway is?
Right.
That's like 2 miles.
Yeah.
You're like telling them, guys, run down there. That's going to take 20 minutes to run from one end to the other. But so Doug, he sets his plane down, pops open the cockpit. The Hades bomb, when he landed, was still on the bottom of the jet.
I know.
I'm
I
like,
was
you
fucks.
fucks. But Nikesh orders the troops to attack him through the flames. The Americans must die, or none of you will live to regret your mistakes.
But
I'm like, motherfucker, you're the only one who's fucking up here.
these flames are magic, motherfucker. Like, everybody who tries to go through these flames.
They're driving Jeeps
Just
through, and the Jeeps are like just flipping on their
exploding.
sides. And like, what the fuck is going on? This
It
shit
is
was hilarious.
seriously-
Why are they flipping like that?
The thing that I loved is like, why didn't someone go, I'm just going to drive around it
drive
then?
around, yeah, we can do
Everybody has
that.
to go fucking through it.
But so Doug hops out of the jet. He's coming over. He's to help his dad get up and moving. Dad is like shocked to see that his son is sprinting in, which like imagine though, like the fuck is
What
that my
is-
son?
What is going on right now? Yeah.
Yeah. So Doug picks him up onto his feet, tells him we can talk later. We got to get you back in the plane. Let's go. So the baddies are continuing to try to come through the fire, including those 2 poor bastards that they sent through on a motorcycle and sidecar.
What the hell,
Like,
man?
the Jeeps aren't having any luck. Send a motorcycle through. Yeah, okay. But so the flames are starting to die down now, though, and the bad guys have this big armored vehicle ready to charge. So Doug can see it coming. He asks his dad, basically, like, can the F-16, can they fire missiles while we're on the ground? But he's like, because something's about to have us for breakfast, which as a little tiny boy, I remember thinking, what a cool line. Something's about to have us for breakfast. That's cool, man. But Colonel Masters is like, I don't know. And Doug fires away. The missile blows up this armored truck thing, blows it sky high. So Doug taxis to take off. The radar tells him now the sky's full of MiGs. His dad says, take off anyway. We'll take care of it in the sky. So take off. They do. Nikesh orders one of the MiGs to land at the airport so he can get into the fight. I loved when the plane landed and he's like yelling at the guy in the cockpit.
Yeah.
And the dude's just staring at him with a big helmet on. Like he's just motionless. Like, get out of there and take that flight suit off. Now, Colonel Masters tells Doug, let's make a break for the coast as fast as we can. Then he seems to realize, shit, we don't have the fuel for that. Slow down or we're going to run out of gas before we get there. Doug sees that there's MiGs gaining on him. Says, we're going to have to fight them. And Dad's like, do you think you can handle a loop? And Doug's, do you think you can handle the music? Fucking weird.
Oh, it's so weird.
So Doug pops in yet another tape.
Again, where is he getting these tapes?
He must have a little pouch.
I guess so.
But we don't hear what's playing. All it is
No.
like the Iron Eagle theme.
Right.
That would have been the spot to reuse Twisted Sister.
Yes.
Would've
We're
been
not going to take it.
We're not,
That would have been
It's like it's
perfect.
fucking them up, yeah.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, Doug pulls a loop. All of a sudden, he's behind two MiGs, shoots them both down with ease.
With guns again.
Guns.
Not missiles. He shoots them with guns and they explode in giant balls of flames.
So I read this very seriously written article all about how Doug Masters is a better pilot than Maverick and like listing all the reasons why. And the shit was hysterical. But it basically, he's saying like, you know, he was shooting motherfuckers down with guns, which is like a more, like for a true pilot, that's how you really fucking kill someone instead of like the missiles tracking their plane and stuff like that. But it was all full of like, he had this many more kills than Maverick. He was using fucking guns, not missiles. You know, it was a great, it was hysterical.
So funny.
So all of a sudden though, Nikesh is behind Doug now. He's like, all right, you may deal directly with me now. Colonel Akir Nikesh. He had gotten up in the air and caught up with them quick.
Very fast.
Like impossibly quick.
Again, time and geography mean nothing.
Because he's like changed into a flight suit.
Yeah,
now.
he's in a flight suit with a helmet that fits him.
You need to taxi around and take off. Yeah. Like they're 100 miles away from you probably already.
I mean, they are flying so fast. I mean, these jets are
if you're flying
not
1,000
slow.
miles an hour or something, you know, you're 5 minutes past and you're
you're gone.
Whatever, way behind. But it's final boss time. Because everyone else has disappeared now. It's just one-on-one. Doug is like, and you can deal with me, Doug Masters. Okay. So Nikesh starts shooting missiles and guns at Doug, but he can't hit him. They're talking trash back and forth. And Nikesh gives one of my all-time favorite random movie quotes. Time to die, Iron Eagle. That line runs through my head at least once a week. Time to die,
Iron Eagle.
I love that shit. When Nikesh, then he shoots and misses again.
I know. What an ineffectual bad guy.
And at this point,
seriously.
Doug, I guess, decides, I'm tired of not killing you. Because he just does an unclear maneuver, and he's behind Nikesh now.
Yep.
With his dad urging him on, Doug's like, so long, asshole, and kills Nikesh with a missile shot. And that scream from Nikesh right when the missile's coming is like, I love, that's classic. Ah! So now all of a sudden there's a lot more MiGs. They're getting back into the fight. Colonel Masters is telling Doug again, oh shit, we don't have any missiles left, only a few bullets in the guns. Better make a run for the coast.
Did he say like 80 rounds? Like there's nothing there.
It's like one pull of the trigger probably.
Basically, yeah.
It's crazy. He's like, well, yeah, I feel like you just were making the run for the coast, and then you're like, we don't have gas for this. And it's like, were they ever going to have enough fuel to get to an American base somewhere?
I'm going to be honest, by this point, I'm like, I've completely lost the thread.
Maybe they did a lot more flying around than they anticipated they were going to have to do, and now we're running out of gas.
I was just like, you do you movie. I'm just here for the ride at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Like, by that point, I'm like, I am done trying to track the logistics of all of this.
But with a dwindling fuel, it seems like they're going to have no choice but to fight again. Then all of a sudden, 4 more fighters pop up on the radar. It seems like it's game over. But now the new planes identify themselves as Americans. And Doug tells them, hey, they're ours.
They're ours, Dad. Yeah.
So Doug tells them, we got MiGs on our tail. The pilot cracked me up.
Yeah.
He's so like had a dry sense of humor. He's like, we'll make radio contact and verify their intentions. And he's like, attention, unidentified aircraft. This is the U.S. Air Force. You're following one of our F-16s in international airspace. Do you wish to engage? And like, they're clearly though flying over land still,
Right,
like in the process shots, and it's like, I don't see how you're in international airspace here, but the MiGs turn back, So the American leader asked Doug if he rescued his dad, which he says he did. Leader's like, okay, we came to assist you after we heard Chappie's Mayday call, and we were worried he might have, like, that the dad might have been shot down along with Chappie. So he confirms, the wreckage of Chappie's plane was found floating in the Mediterranean. No body was recovered. Doug's in shock. The leader says, we got a fuel tanker standing by. We're going to fly you guys to Germany. This is a long-ass day of flying for Doug.
I know. I was thinking, like, this is like
now we're flying to
24.
Germany?
This is like 36 hours he's been sitting in
doing
this
nothing,
plane.
but like his legs are probably numb.
Oh, my God. I know.
So Doug asks if we can fly the missing man formation for Chappie, and they agree, tell him to come on up and take the lead. So Doug...
But they don't fly the missing man formation.
It was just a flying V sort of thing, right?
It was just a flying V,
Yeah, I thought that same thing, man.
It was like, okay, I mean, come on. Like, this fucking...
You
like,
couldn't get him to fly the right formation?
Right, I know. Anyway.
Doug then says, I've got yet another tape that Chappie asked me to play for you once we were up in the air. And I guess that was an instruction from Chappie on the tape.
I don't
that he
know,
didn't
man.
that they didn't show us before. I don't know.
At this point, I'm just like, all right.
Just an endless supply of tapes he's got.
Right. It's just like, I've stopped like trying to ground this in reality.
But so, on tape, Chappie congratulates Colonel Masters on his liberation. He says, you must know what kind of a young man your son is, but he bets that he's wondering how it is that his son wound up flying this rescue mission to North Africa. So he launches into a recap of the entire saga, and I would have they should have let that shit run with like a retelling of the entire movie.
That would have been hilarious.
It's another 90 minutes of just...
This is like it's a flashback. I love the idea that it's like a recursive movie.
It's a loop.
And
We're
every
stuck.
time we get to this scene, we start over again.
But so later on at Ramstein Air Base in Germany, Doug is being escorted into some sort of like a tribunal that's happening.
Yeah.
Then we hear the very familiar voice of Chappie saying, it was very nice of you to join us for the occasion, Mr. Iron Eagle, sir.
Again, once they broke the seal on Iron Eagle,
Mhm.
they say Iron Eagle so many times.
Well, Doug can't believe his eyes, but Chappie's there. Did you find it strange? The Chappie's in a full dress uniform.
Full dress uniform.
And Doug's got his like Iron Eagle, or his Eagle's jacket.
Right.
Like, wait, where'd this shit come from? Did you have this on under your flight suits?
It's clearly Chappie just brings his full dress blues everywhere he goes. Like,
Did he pack them in a little bag?
It was in his, like, he instead of a parachute, his dress blues were in his, that was what was actually in there. And he's like, yeah.
So now Chappie's like, I had to ditch my plane in the Mediterranean. I had to dog paddle for a little while, and then I was eventually picked up by an Egyptian trawler. So Chappie says, your dad's being debriefed still. We're on our own for this. Doug says, they're going to throw us in jail for this.
At least he acknowledges that. Yeah.
And Chappie says, well, whatever they do, just keep your head up and your shoulders back. They kind of like it when you stand tall, which I've always liked that line.
It's a good line.
Yeah.
Good line.
So the tribunal that gives them like a good ass chewing about all the laws they broke and the prison sentences that they could face.
Yep.
Doug is very defiant and says, we had no choice since no one was lifting a finger to help my dad. So they tell Doug and Chappie, all the shit we could do to you, keep those prison sentences in mind, because if you ever speak about what happened to anyone, you're going to face the maximum punishments.
Okay. I'm almost 100% certain that this is not how the military operates. That being said, I spent so much of the last part of this movie going, the number of laws that they're breaking. So the fact that there is even the patina of consequences for what they were doing, I was like, all right, cool. You're at least acknowledging all of the laws that you're breaking.
Most likely thing that probably happened, I don't know if they would do that, but you feel like they would just, we're going to kill you.
Right.
Because you can't be like, you better not talk to anyone about this.
Right.
We got to make sure you never tell anyone what happened.
Right.
Because otherwise, we're like breaking so many international laws probably about how like you can engage militarily with like other countries, whatever.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, Doug and Chappie sort of like grin at each other. They're like, oh shit, we're gonna get away with it. So I think was it Doug was like, does this mean you're letting us go?
Yeah.
General?
Yeah.
And they say to him, this means your release is conditional on your silence. And then Chappie steps in and he says, letting Doug go free would be a big mistake. Doug's confused. Chappie's like saying, the boy's got a big mouth. He'd be better off somewhere where they could force him to keep that big mouth shut. And I like the guy on the tribunal is like, are you saying we should confine the boy to some sort of penal facility? It's like, what? Chappie suggests, perhaps the U.S. Air Force Academy would be the perfect place for Doug. And Doug gets this big grin on his face and all that. So we cut to 3 days later. This Air Force One looking plane has brought the heroes back home. There's a newsman there on the tarmac giving all the exposition.
Didn't in literally just the last scene saying that this is totally top secret, like compartmentalized. No one can ever know about this. And already a journalist is basically detailing everything that theoretically should have been completely top secret.
Is it that, or is it like he's relaying like the military's bogus story of how it went down?
Okay, all right, maybe. Okay,
because he starts like talking some shit like the official story is like this squadron of F-16s were sent in to rescue Colonel Masters, but the details are classified.
Okay,
so we get Colonel Masters. He's coming off the plane. He goes and hugs it out with the family. Then the Air Force Reserve Colonel Chappie Sinclair comes off the plane, and the guy's like, he was rumored to have helped plan the mission. However, we find this to be highly unlikely. What the fuck's he doing there then?
Yeah, and also, why do you find it to be highly unlikely? Like, what evidence has led you to be skeptical of this rumor? I don't understand.
Right. Then we got Doug coming off the plane last with the newsman is like he was flown out there to Germany to accompany his father home. It's like fucking what?
What?
Really?
What are you talking about?
And we understand he's recently received an appointment to the Air Force Academy.
Like, why do you know this? Like, what is going on? Yeah.
So Katie runs over to him while Tony and Reggie are sort of pretending to give him like the cold shoulder.
Yeah.
Katie was dressed sort of exactly like my grandma. Dressed like she had a million garments in the same color palette, which is like. Yeah, earlier in the flick, Doug's mom was dressed just like my grandma too. I'm like, that must have been the era, the mid '80s that my grandma like locked in, and she's like, these are the newest clothes I'm ever gonna own the rest of my life. Everything's gotta be 30 years old, whatever. But Tony and Reggie though, they come running over. There's the big group hug. Then they repeat the little awkward 3-way high five from earlier.
That was
It's not any less awkward with Katie in the middle of it all.
Like going like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing now. Yeah.
And then Doug goes over to Chappie to return his pilot's wings to him. Chappie's like, nah, you keep them. You've earned them.
What?
Which we knew that was going to happen, right? They salute each other, then they hug it out. I love the story, the arc that they had.
I agree.
Now it's a big old party on the runway, everyone's hugging and high-fiving, whatever. Roll credits. Iron Eagle, Never Say Die by the band King Cobra with a K, starts playing over the weirdest credits. That like the blue with the yellow font.
I don't know what that was.
Like, shit, this looks like a placeholder.
Yeah, they just never got around to finishing
temporary credits,
right?
And eventually we're gonna make that look more professional.
Yeah.
It was like a school, something you would have watched in school. The credits that would have played at the end of the
They were like editing it on VHS tapes, copying one over to another.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
But that's fucking Iron Eagle, dude.
That's it, man. We did it. We made it to the end.
I love it, man. It came out I feel like it was probably in a race to the theaters with Top Gun, and Iron Eagle beat him there.
Yeah,
but
January, right? And then
early in the year, and Top Gun came out in the summer, of course.
Yeah.
Right, so, the release date I think was moved up because I think they were going to come out like even just a couple weeks apart.
Right.
And then the people at TriStar or whatever were like, we're going to get our ass kicked if we do that. So they bumped it up. But yeah, solid fucking flick, man. I mean, I love it. I don't know how you felt about it.
I mean, it is a wonderful artifact of the 80s. I loved putting myself in the position. I mean, it was jarring at first. It took me a minute to get into the headspace of Iron Eagle because again, I saw it in the 80s originally, and I didn't follow through with it the way that you did.
Yeah.
And so I only had these fractions of memories of it. And then watching it again from beginning to end, it was a very different experience than I remembered.
Tell me more.
And at the first I was having trouble getting into it.
Okay.
I was so taken aback by the unreality of it.
Okay.
But I am by all of those 80s teen power fantasy movies. But then once I started leaning back into the 80s movies tropes, I found my center again.
Okay.
And then by the time they were doing the montage planning of the rescue of his dad, I'm like, okay, I'm here.
Twisted Sister sort of
Twisted
playing,
shows,
like,
and I'm like, okay.
I get it.
We're not going to take it anymore. Montage, like I was in. And then I was like just there for it for the rest of the movie.
Okay.
The last plane sequence, like I said, like it got to a point where I just had to go, I am not going to think about any of this, the reality of any of this, because I'm going to have a bad time if I do that. And you make a conscious decision to go, I'm just going to lean into what this is and not worry about the reality of it.
I mean, Doug Masters killed so many people.
He is a mass murderer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like just, I mean, fuck, I don't know. I guess the whole thing is justified what they did. But like they killed how many people to save one person? It's just sort of strange.
And yes, I guess you could argue that the people
he was
on
being
the base,
held unjustly.
and they were all military combatants. These weren't civilian kills. But by the same token, murder is murder to a certain extent.
I agree with you.
But again, I mean, this isn't, Iron Eagle doesn't have the market corner on this. Hollywood in general, as long as you're an enemy within the context of the fiction, there's no guilt, there's no repercussions. You don't need to worry about it. You're 100% justified, right?
Especially like in Reagan's America.
Oh yeah,
where it's like, no, America's king.
Yeah,
everyone else is second best.
Yeah.
And the shitty, gimpy little countries or whatever they said in the movie.
Yeah.
Is like, no, they can like suck our dick.
Yeah.
They're going to do whatever we say.
Right. Look, I'm sorry. You're not America. That's not my problem. We rule, right? Like, you drool, we rule.
Absolutely, dude. Like, this slots in with whatever Rocky IV and various Rambo movies where it's like the very like uber patriotic.
Oh yeah.
It's it's what it is it's the opposite of like Red Dawn.
Yeah.
Which was like or the opposite of They Live, where it was like sort of disillusioned with Reagan America. And here's like an alternate, perspective, an opposite point of view. I don't know. This one though was like full on like rah America's the best.
Yeah.
Everyone else, sucks to be you.
Yeah, right. But it was by the time I got to the end of it though, and you get into the headspace of it.
Yeah,
you're totally in it. You're in it to win it. You're you're ready to go.
Everything you wanted to see.
Yeah.
Lots of like big explosions and pretty cool footage of fighter jets flying.
Even if they're completely out of context, even just looking at them, like those are really impressive pieces of aircraft. Like, I mean, those are unbelievable.
Yeah.
And you're getting a lot of footage. And this is actually something that occurred to me. Is it just me, or did Iron Eagle actually get more footage of these aircrafts flying than Top Gun did?
Well, what was crazy that you told me that I have not verified.
Yeah.
But you said that this movie had a higher budget than Top Gun.
That is what my research is showing
That's
to me.
crazy.
Yeah.
But it could be because I think Top Gun had the U.S. Navy's like cooperation, so they might have been paying nothing for all this, like the production value of planes and stuff, and maybe Iron Eagle was having to pay.
Yeah, it's possible.
Because otherwise, I don't see how this movie could have been more expensive than Top Gun.
I mean, if you think about it, like so much of this movie was shot internationally. Like so much of it was in Israel, and that kind
like
of
did have more. I feel like they did have more real.
Yeah,
jets in the air footage than Top Gun had.
That was the feeling that I got too, and I just don't think that their editor was good because the dogfights in Top Gun felt more coherent than the dogfights in this movie. But I also felt like there was far fewer reused moments in Iron Eagle than there was in Top Gun.
That's true. Little bits of footage we're going to use it over and over again.
Yeah.
So I've pulled up the top grossing movies from 1986.
All right.
In front of me here. Number one, probably not surprising, was Top Gun.
Yeah,
the top movie of the year. This is a strong year for movies, at least for me. Crocodile Dundee was number 2. Which I love that movie.
I love that movie.
We've done that on the podcast. It is definitely not an action movie, but it was a lot of fun.
It's good.
Platoon was number 3.
Wow, that was 86.
That movie, and it made a lot of money.
Wow.
For a movie that's like
the opposite of Iron Eagle.
And the opposite of like the rah rah America is a very like poignant portrait of the Vietnam conflict.
Yeah.
Number 4 was Karate Kid Part 2.
Ooh.
Hell yeah. I love that. Number 5 was Star Trek The Voyage Home.
Oh my God, The Voyage Home. Was it 86?
I never watched I never watched those old Star Trek movies.
Dude.
I never watched any movies of Star Trek until the J.J. Abrams Star Trek.
So this is a rabbit hole we cannot go down. I am like the biggest Star Trek nerd. And
is Voyage Home the one with the whales?
It's the one with the whales. They go back in time to 1986.
Oh shit!
To rescue whales because whales have gone extinct in the 23rd century. And there's this alien probe that comes and it speaks whale.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's not getting any responses from whales, it's going to destroy the planet.
Oh fuck!
And so of course, the crew of the Federation, or of NCC 1701, has to go back in time. But the Enterprise explodes in Star Trek 3, so they're actually in a Klingon bird of prey.
Okay.
Anyway, this is a whole other thing. We're not going to go down this road. We're already going down a really dark path here. Suffice it to say, I had forgotten that Voyage Home was 86. That's amazing. Yeah.
Was it good? Was that
great.
A good one?
Voyage Home is
a good one? Okay.
Honestly, the general rule is for a while, the even Star Treks were the best ones.
Okay.
So,
it was 2 Wrath of Khan.
4 is The Voyage Home.
That's the
6
only
was the
one I've
Undiscovered
seen,
Country.
to be honest, from all the old ones, even still.
Yeah. Anyway,
elsewhere on the 1986 hit list, this is interesting to me. New knowledge. The number 6 movie of that year was Back to School, the Rodney Dangerfield flick.
That was
number 6 best highest grossing movie of the year.
Wow.
Right behind it was Aliens. Imagine a world in which Back to School made more money than Aliens.
I mean, Aliens is a masterpiece of action
Back to
cinema.
School is like a throwaway stoner comedy sort of type flick.
That blows my mind.
Imagine that made more money than Aliens.
That blows my mind.
Wow, Rodney Dangerfield. Okay, we got Golden Child.
That's a great movie.
Yeah. Ferris Bueller's Day Off came out this year.
These were all in 86?
Yeah, dude. Color of Money, Stand By Me.
Wow.
Cobra from our boy Stallone.
Wow.
That's one of the great 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger series is our series on Cobra.
All right.
If you never listened to that, check it out. I'm going to scroll down the list and see if I can find Iron Eagle. See what else crosses. Man, there was a lot of movies that still stand strong. Short Circuit came out the year. Pretty in Pink. The Fly.
Wow. Oh, The Fly. Oh, man.
Gung Ho, which I love.
Yeah.
Ron Howard. Michael Keaton flick.
That's the one where the Japanese car manufacturer comes in.
Yeah, they come and open a plant in America, and there's culture clashing. There we go. Iron Eagle, the 41st highest grossing movie of the year. Made $24 million. I don't know what the budget was even like.
I don't know.
I mean, I feel like this movie was not a success. But it did spawn all the sequels.
It did. It was
so
enough.
It must have had at least a cult following.
So my understanding is all the sequels were a joint funding between Canada and Israel.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I think it was 2, which is the only one of the sequels I've ever seen, where it was that might have come out, it might have been after the fall of the Berlin Wall. That would probably make the most sense because the plot was they were going to have some Russian pilots. And I honestly, I feel like it might have been the Russian pilots that shot Doug Masters down.
Oh, interesting.
We're going to come and do like joint training with American pilots. And then Chappie was like trying to help them to work together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I hope that was part 2 and not part 3. But fuck
Masters he dies off screen in 2.
I think it was 2 because I think that's the only one I've ever seen. Then I know he was back alive again in part 3. I don't know how they reconciled that or they retconned it, but whatever. Maybe I'll watch them sometime if they're ever streaming somewhere for free and I'm really bored. But man, I'm glad we did Iron Eagle. It's fucking I can't tell you how much I love this movie, man.
It's it is.
It's just a wild 80s romp.
I mean, I don't remember what my father's name is anymore, but at least I have the memories of Iron Eagle.
Yes.
My neurons have been reassigned.
You're fried?
Yeah.
Okay. The bourbon is working then. Then the bourbon is working, my friend. I love that. I love that for you. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming down this wormhole with us.
Another one in the can. Another great movies. We don't do bad movies on this podcast, though.
Yeah, even the bad ones are fun.
Even the bad ones are amazing.
They make for the better podcasts.
Oh yeah,
I think,
absolutely.
Too, you know?
Yeah.
But
it's hard to joke about masterpieces.
Yeah, no, you can't. Like that's Die Hard. Like, what can you say about Die Hard or Terminator?
Yes, this is an excellent film. Moving right along.
Yeah, love it. Nothing wrong here. Nothing
wrong here.
Nothing really to laugh at. It's just fucking great. Yeah, no, seriously. But thanks all for listening. As always, we'll be back again with something new. We got to figure out what that's going to be, but it's time. We probably need to get back to something Schwarzenegger adjacent.
I feel like the time has come.
Yeah.
The time has come.
Okay. Dude, I'm spent. You got anything else you want to say to the people?
I'm done, man. We did it. We made it through.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, until next time, we'll be back.
We'll be back.